The following presentation is rated WPC.
My name is William Patrick. Welcome to Film Buff. Welcome to Film Buff.
The following presentation is rated
What happened to the people who used to live here?
They drowned.
Are we halfway to heaven? Are we halfway to hell?
We're dead.
You're dead. We're very unhappy. What did you expect?
We want to get rid of the people who have moved in here.
The living usually won't see the dead.
I will live with you in this hellhole. I must express myself.
Ghosts.
If you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me!
Maybe the house could use a little remodeling.
I have a feeling there's something very interesting behind this door.
Ghosts of the people who died in this house. They want us out of here.
We just want to get some people out of...
Get them out yourselves. It's your house.
What about that guy in Beetle?
Don't even say his name. You don't want his help.
You two kids picked me. You didn't have to, but you picked me. It makes me want to kiss you guys. Come on, come on. Give me one. Come on.
He's been sleazing around your cemetery lately.
Ah, possession. Good. Learn to throw your voice. Fool your friends. Fun and party.
The only way he can be brought back
Did you help me get out of here?
is by calling his name
You gotta say my name
3 times.
3 times.
Beetlejuice. What are your qualifications?
Initially, I'm a graduate of Harvard Business School. I traveled quite extensively.
I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that.
Beetlejuice!
I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it.
Beetlejuice.
Nice fucking model!
Also, are you doing this?
I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Welcome to Film Buff University here on Film Buff. I'm your host, William Patrick Coleman. Is Beetlejuice the greatest movie of all time? Now hear me out on this. Let's stop and take a minute to find out. If legend is accurate, it takes the verbal announcement of his name 3 times in order to summon the poltergeist for hire. So in honor, I will list exactly 3 reasons why the 1988 Tim Burton dark comedy is a supernatural force to be reckoned with. And we'll do it in the separation of the 3 C's. Its conception, its construction, and its cast of characters. Number 1, its conception. It makes sense that writers Larry Wilson and Michael McDowell get story credit for conceiving this painfully original story, considering one half stays with Burton later on in his career and develops Nightmare Before Christmas, and the other half would go on to adapt the brilliant comedy The Addams Family. Yes, I said brilliant. Beetlejuice, which was once titled House Ghosts or Scared Sheetless, but completely missed the opportunity to call it the handbook for the recently deceased. Come on, guys. Tells the all-too-familiar tale of a newlywed couple who suffer from a fatal car accident together, only to find their spirits eternally bound to their unfinished, remodeled home. That is, until it gets resold to a pair of unappreciative, pretentious socialite yuppies and their polite, pleasant goth daughter, Winona Ryder. Pale white women. Who actually can maintain the ability to communicate with the deceased couple.
Deceased.
deceased.
Threatened by the new family's persistence in transitioning their home to a more modernized art loft, the paranormal spirits become committed to turning into ghosts and trying to haunt the yuppie socialites and their acquaintances away completely with the help of their spiritual caseworker. But when all fails, they contemplate hiring what is a paranormal ghost evictor for hire named Beetlegeist, a loud, perverted motor mouth with a bad reputation and banned in confinement from the world of the living by a curse. Does this sound familiar? It absolutely doesn't sound familiar. Now, stop and think about the size of the originality in this. You couldn't walk into Warner Brothers today with that concept, put it on the table. It's not based on a comic book, it's not based on a sequel, it's not based on a TV show, it's completely and wholly original, and have them put that much money into that today. You would get laughed out of the office. They wouldn't even validate your car. As consumers and customers, we don't want to spend money on something we're not sure is going to be good or not. And as the production company, they don't want to invest money into something they know they're not going to get money back from. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's their fault. But the size of the originality in this script and in this concept gives this movie at least 50% of its grading that I'm going to end up giving it tonight. A little originality goes a very, very long way, and this movie is about as original as it gets. Number 2, the construction of Beetlejuice. If you don't like the opening score in the first 2 minutes of Beetlejuice, then you might as well not fucking waste your time on the rest of the movie, because Danny Elfman's score is particularly probably some of the best work he's ever done with Tim Burton. One of the first scores he did after being the frontman for the band Oingo Boingo. Danny Elfman and Tim Burton's collaboration would prove to become probably the best relationship between a musician and his director in film history, aside from George Lucas and John Williams. Now, although the movie won an Academy Award for Best Makeup, the production design for Bo Welch is something to consider dissecting. Many of the beautiful, unique set design of Beetlejuice is clearly based off of German Expressionism, which is the German style of cinema that influenced the horror genre, and parts of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. There is a very clear difference between the Norman Rockwell-esque look of Adam and Barbara's life to after they pass away and the new afterlife that they experience. But let's talk about Tim Burton. Tim fucking Burton, right? How can we talk about Beetlejuice without talking about the great director Tim Burton? Now, Tim Burton's had a very interesting roller coaster of a career for a director. Someone comparable to, say, Paul Verhoeven or Joel Schumacher even. He's made some really, really good stuff, and when they're good, they're great. But then he's done so many little bad things in a row that his fans have even turned on him. But not me, and I'll tell you why.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Tim Burton has consistently been responsible for the most imaginative moments of my life in cinema as a child, growing up. He has tackled the dark undertone of a story through comedy, through fantasy, through stop motion. He's, I believe, one of the greatest directors of our time. I mean, aside from your legends like Coppola and Scorsese and Spielberg and even Lucas perhaps, Tim Burton is easily the most recognizable of his styles, and it's not a bad thing. The people that he uses enhances his stories, and they enhance them to a great level. And this is something really interesting to note. The man can mix comedy and horror so well, and Beetlejuice is the prime example of that. Why every time I look at you, you're crying? What are you crying about? So unfortunately, he was the director that had to prove to us that we don't want a Willy Wonka remake. And unfortunately, he had to be the director to prove to us that there can be a very dull Legend of Sleepy Hollow when it's rated R. But without even mentioning Big Fish or Big Eyes, that guy could go on to make 10 bad movies back to back, and I'll still never forget the first 5 he gave me as an impressionable youth growing up through film. God bless Tim Burton, and God bless his work. So we pretty much hit a home run on all cylinders here. Now we're going to take a look at number 3. Not falling for that again. So let's take a look at number 3, the cast of characters. Now, this should be pretty easy here, as we're pretty stacked with some great talent. Did you know that not one actor who received the script and read it said yes at first? In fact, they all turned it down except for actress Geena Davis. Now, this was 1987, around the time of The Fly and her marriage to Jeff Goldblum, so maybe she was looking for weird and quirky roles. And comedian Catherine O'Hara, who I like to talk about when I like to talk about Beetlejuice, because I think she's underplayed as this woman who is a failed artist or sculptor who is in this marriage with a guy played by Jeffrey Jones who doesn't seem like they're on the same page of things. And she's really artsy and really high class, and he's really wealthy, so clearly he has that appeal to her. Stop! Now's a pretty good convenient time to talk about the relationships that surround Tim Burton's movies. It's a nice little added bonus to the already dark, ominous tone of his movies, including the man himself. Tim Burton must have gone through several different relationships during his career, and involving each one of his girlfriends within the making of his movies. They can be seen in Beetlejuice, or model Lisa Marie, who pops in, to Helena Bonham Carter. Even production designer Bo Welch was introduced to Catherine O'Hara on the set of Beetlejuice, and to this day they're still married 30-something years later. But my favorite relationship in Hollywood has to go to, hands down, Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder. Don't talk about my porcelain princess that way. God damn it. Sorry. Winona Ryder plays Lydia Dietz, who would later become the poster child for Gothic culture. And Tim Burton is to Gothic culture what Martin Scorsese is to mobster movies, and what Clint Eastwood is to angry senior citizens. The Gothic culture is often compared with being moody, isolated, silent, quiet, dark, depressive. But upon a couple of viewings of Lydia Dietz within Beetlejuice, it might not be the case. This is a girl in her preteens who's trying to get used to her father marrying a new woman. And when she doesn't see eye to eye with that woman, she becomes sort of at a distance between her and her family. You will notice as the movie goes on, she becomes much more livelier as the Maitlands become more of a representative as parental figures. The moody Gothic label is a tad bit misunderstood. And last but not least, is there anybody having a better time than fucking Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice? I've never watched a performance and just had so much fun watching this guy just being a lowlife in the afterlife. Despite the fact that the movie is named after him, he is in the movie for only 14 and a half minutes. You can look it up, I swear, with only 90% of his dialogue improv'd. Michael Keaton was pretty big at the time in movies like Clean and Sober and Mr. Mom and Johnny Dangerously. However, it was Beetlejuice that cultivated him into superstardom, allowed him to play Bruce Wayne and Batman twice for Tim Burton, and then later on would receive critical praise for his performance in Birdman.
And the next time you screech, it'll explode into millions of eardrums.
But as always, we're going to go ahead and get a word from our co-anchor, Ryan Miller, on his In the Field segment about Beetlejuice. Ryan?
Hey Will, I'm out here in beautiful Los Angeles, California, doing a bit of stargazing tonight because not only is Beetlejuice the name of the titular character played by Michael Keaton in the film Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice is also the name of one of the brightest stars in our night sky. So I thought we'd come out here tonight and take a look at this massive star. If you see here, Beetlejuice is a star located in the constellation Orion, about 700 million light years away. It's 20 times the size of our sun. You can see it up there. It's kind of cloudy. I actually can't see any stars. What's that? Oh my God. Dude. That's... Is that an airplane?
Whoa, that was really weird. He still had that Mud Dog hat on from the last segment. Anyways, alright guys. Pencils up, papers in, not so fast. Remember before when I started this segment out with a question, is Beetlejuice the best movie ever made? And all signs seem to point to yes. However, there's a little small hitch that I've noticed over the course of many years of watching this movie that really bugs me. And it bugs me to the point where I don't necessarily know that I can give it an A. See if you follow me. Remember earlier when Otho said,
You know what they say about people who commit suicide? In the afterlife, they become civil servants.
Well, we get an opportunity to see that when we go to visit Juno, the afterlife caseworker. And we see the receptionist who had slit her own wrists. We also see an employee who's hanging around, dropping off paperwork. There's also a guy hanging by a wire with tire marks across his body, and Juno herself has her throat slit open, which would insinuate that they committed suicide in a very bizarre way. However, this would prove to be true about what Otho says, as suicide victims become civil servant workers. Now remember when Juno said earlier,
He was my assistant, but he was a troublemaker. He went out on his own as a freelance bioexorcist.
well then, wouldn't that insinuate that Beetlejuice had committed suicide himself? The answer is yes. He actually did commit suicide. He hung himself and it didn't go well, and he basically suffered a gruesome death. Now, not only do they fail to mention something that seems pretty important to know, but they don't mention why. In earlier drafts, when all this is revealed, it is revealed that he had fallen in love and he got his heart broken, and that's when he attempted to suicide. Well, now, wouldn't that explain why he wants to marry Lydia? Because if you go out of your way to look this up, it explains he tricked her into marrying him. He didn't trick her. It was a part of a deal. She knew she was going to have to marry him. But she seems a little underage, doesn't she? Even for a ghost? Even for 1988? There are so many holes in this theory that it's not mysteriously vague and clever. It's mysteriously irritating. This is important information that we, as the viewers, should know. And for a movie that runs really well at 1 hour and 40 minutes, why don't you just take the extra 10 minutes to explain some things that we should know about this character? By the time the movie ends, we don't necessarily know if he's just annoying and we don't like him, or if he's actually a bad person and we don't like him. One of the longest running sequel ideas had been Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, in which Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder were both contracted to appear. They're still trying to get the movie made. I don't want to see Beetlejuice go to Hawaii. I kind of want to know these little things about these characters to help fill in the gaps. So back in the day, I would give Beetlejuice the film buff grade of an A-. But over the course of time, I believe I'm going to have to lower Beetlejuice down to a B+. B+ on our Film Buff University grade. It's still a classic. It's still absolutely wonderful and delightful. We just want a little bit more, just a little bit more explanation about these characters that we've grown to love over all these years. That's all the time we have for today. Until next time.
Arrive early for the previews, stay late for the crowd. Oh my god! What?
Oh, great. You 6 sons of bitches. Well, the good news is, now I'll definitely be able to find the G-spot.
I want to talk to Barbara.
No, you don't need to talk to Barbara. Just say it.
Let's go to the let's go.